Hello and welcome to another Doris Diaries. I'm in Phnom Penh, capital of Cambodia. And yeah, I was trying to find a quiet street to record this update. That might be something of a paradox, a quiet street in Phnom Penh, but there we go. I think I found one. So I'm out here visiting some schools and heading to a British Chamber of Commerce event on Friday. The plan for Doris over the next 6 to 18 months is to expand country by country, first in Southeast Asia, and then we're going to be looking at other regions. So whilst we're getting things kicked off in Singapore, I'm visiting lots of different countries, meeting schools, and just kind of testing the concept of Doris in the market and getting feedback, and everyone's been super helpful and super lovely. So yeah, I'm off to one of the Invictus schools tomorrow. Very much looking forward to that. Dodging tuk-tuks here as I go. So I thought I'd give a little bit of a product update. So next week on Monday marks the end of the beta period for Doris, which is super exciting. So over the past kind of month, 6 weeks, we've basically been trying to learn as much as possible about user behavior and how parents engage with the Doris AI school recommendation engine, machine assistant, we're not quite sure what to call it yet, and also just how they behave across the site. And it's been amazing, actually. We've learned loads and loads and loads and loads. And the kind of broad result, which I suppose is really lucky, I would be in trouble, is that when it works, it really works, and that parents are, one, really kind of engaged by the idea of getting impartial AI-powered school recommendations. We're getting great throughput from our performance ad, and pretty good CPC even on really high intent keywords. And that's basically just because we're able to offer something a bit different. So rather than look at this school, it's like, hey, come to Doris and we'll give you totally impartial recommendations, help you find the best fit school for you. So that's really cool. And then when parents come on to Doris and they get through the chat and get school recommendations, like it's really cool to see. I'm watching a lot of the user sessions. We're using a tool called Hotjar to record those, and it's super, super cool. There are some snags, and part of these Doris Diaries are to share the journey as transparently as possible. And there's a few snags, but ones that are really obvious are consents that pop up about 3 questions in. They're super necessary, and we're not going to soften those. They're important to make sure that we're properly handling everyone's data and that our users understand that. But the way that we're displaying them is quite clunky in the UX, and that's causing a drop off there. So we want to improve that. The other thing that we were seeing a couple of weeks ago is that the recommendations were a little off sometimes, and also they were harder for a parent to understand. So we actually made a tweak inside the chat, and now we're much more explicitly flagging to parents how a school does or doesn't fit the criteria that they've named. There's so much further that we can go with this. And then I think the other snag or the other thing that's affecting conversion through our funnel, and we think of our funnel as someone going from a click through on an ad or an organic click through all the way to a match. I think another limiting factor on that funnel that we're definitely seeing is maybe just the amount of questions or the way that we're stacking them. Got to be careful that I don't get run over here. There's lots of bikes and tuk-tuks, so I'll be careful. Yeah, but just the way that we're stacking those questions maybe doesn't make best sense. I think it's my fault. I was like, hey, I think we can ask loads of questions, which of course went against classic product insight that, more fields on a form or more questions in any kind of chat just causes drop off. I think that we're perhaps either asking too many questions, or what we're not doing very well is showing users as we're asking those questions how that's progressing them closer to basically recommendations to a result, or in product speak to getting some value. So that's something that we're looking to improve as well. And I think what we're going to do there is maybe slim down the questions, or maybe have a 2-stage process. So we get some information up front from the parents, and that gets some quick recommendations, And then once we've kind of passed them through to those school profiles or given them more of a school profile view, it's then that we'd allow them to tell us some more, or we'd ask some more questions and we'd refine down those recommendations a little bit more. So yeah, we're going to be making some like fairly significant UX tweaks, and it's just been so good to have this period to like observe users, and then as we come out of the beta period to make these changes. So yeah, it's going to be super exciting, lots of little conversion experiments, and obviously the goal here is to give parents the best possible experience on our site, and if we give them the best possible experience, then we can connect them most effectively with the schools that are the best fit for them, and ultimately provide loads of values to our partner schools. The other thing that kind of marks the end of the beta period for Doris is the release of our school dashboard. And obviously that's 50% of the products. It's a super important component, and the school dashboard is kind of like the cockpit for schools. So there they can log in, they can edit and enhance their profiles. So you know, we're going to be totally impartial always. Schools are never going to be able to pay us for additional visibility, but one of the benefits of becoming a partner school, which of course involves paying us and getting a license, is that a school's able to customize their profile and add additional sections to basically deepen the level of insight that they give to parents who visit it. They can also access data insights from the school dashboard. So we've already got some cool ones to roll out next week when we first launch the dashboard, and they tell schools things like, okay, how am I shown alongside other schools? What's my competitor set? How frequently am I shown alongside those schools? So that's pretty cool. And also obviously the main value there is that schools can see who's searching their school and what they're searching for, and AI powered insights about that search. And then ultimately, as we create matches, they can see all the details of their matches there, plus AI powered insights into those matches. And then from there, they can connect directly with those parents. So yeah, the release of our school dashboard is going to be a big leap forward. That's kind of the first time that both sides of the marketplace are going to be live and transacting. And you know, from there, it's all about how do we, one, grow the amount of parents coming to Doris, but also, you know, most importantly, we don't want to create a full but busy leaky bucket. How do we get more parents through our funnel from first visit right through to matching with our partner schools? The other thing that I wanted to talk about that's been a really interesting bit of entrepreneurial learning for me was just how demanding creating a marketplace is. So before we incorporated Doris, I was having a bit of time off after I left my last role, and I was researching marketplaces. I mean, it's very, very sad, but I was even listening to podcasts that specialize in interviewing founders and marketplaces, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I get this. And it seems simple enough. Famous last words, obviously that's now I'm being punished for exactly that hubris that I'm talking about. And you know what's interesting, my last company, Tap, is an amazing product, but it's what I suppose I'd describe as a piece of B2B enterprise technology. So you know, it's hard to build and maintain, but once you get it in customers' hands, it's their job to use it and bring users. With the marketplace, you take on that problem yourself. So of course you have to do the B2B demand, so we need to get schools on board, but you also have to feed the B2C beast. You have to get parents coming onto the marketplace, or it isn't a marketplace. There's no transaction liquidity in it, and it kind of doesn't exist. And that's really interesting. That creates a real, I just walked into a tree there. That creates a real ongoing capital requirement, and also just time and effort requirement that isn't present in other businesses. Now, obviously, the kind of insight is that if you're able to get that demand going, then that obviously creates, and this is a piece of jargon. Oh, this is amazing, actually. Just stop and have a look at this. This amazing dried meat that they do in Cambodia. Absolutely incredible. Thank you. That obviously then creates this kind of flywheel, and that is startup jargon. But basically that B2C demand, as it grows, that kind of powers B2B demand ultimately. But you know, it takes time to get that going, and you know, we're in a we're in a relatively strong cash position, but of course, like any startup, we don't have endless cash. So that basically just means that you have to be super surgical in where you're spending your pounds and dollars to get those users. And you know, it's kind of something that once you start, there's no going back from it once you have real users, which we do. So partner schools, if you're watching, don't worry, we're on this. But it's tough, yeah. You set this thing in motion and you can never stop, it never sleeps. And that's been a fascinating thing to learn. Luckily, we've got an absolute hotshot B2C marketer and she's really taking care of this problem. But it's something that maybe I underestimated, if I'm totally honest. And finally, just as I walk back in my hotel, so if you've got to the end of this video and it's the first time watching one of these Doris Diaries, which would be statistically amazing if you've made it this far, I'd be very impressed and very grateful. Just to talk a little bit about why we're doing this, because I think like constantly going back to the mission is really important, and I find it super motivating, particularly when things get busy. And it's this, I suppose. It's really simple. You've got parents who are moving overseas, and obviously that process is incredibly stressful, time intensive. There's lots of doubt associated with it, and perhaps lots of angst. And one of the key things that you've got to sort out as part of that process of relocating is finding the right school for your kid. And you know, if you're moving to a new country for the first time, you're probably not even going to know the names of any schools, let alone why they're a good fit for you, or you know, why you should send your kid there. So it's a huge decision, and let's not underestimate the cost involved. International schooling is amazing, but it's an expensive business. So this is a serious purchase that's being made by people who, you know, are in a really stressful moment of their life. And then on the other side, you've got international schools that offer this wonderful, diverse experience, but they're seeking out this kind of moving target, this almost phantom of the best fit family, you know, from month to month. What does that mean? How does that change? How do you identify those people without getting into, say, the zero-sum game of doing performance ads and saying, hey, we offer a world-class outstanding education, which undoubtedly these schools do, but if every school says it, it's pretty hard for the consumer to tell those things apart. And you know, your other opportunities are, you know, to go to fairs, use agents, all that kind of stuff. But essentially, it's kind of putting the burden on the parent to find you. And so that's where Doris comes in. Our mission's actually like really simple. It's to make the process of parents and schools discovering and connecting with each other 10 or 100 times better. And to do that on the parent side, that's about offering completely impartial recommendations, and using AI to do that helps with the impartiality, but also just means they're quick, immediate, repeatable there when you need them. And then on the other side, for schools, it's about putting them in front of parents who are self-identified as being a best fit. Parents have said, hey, I'm looking for these things, and then we connect them with the schools on the other side that offer those things. So, you know, that whole expensive, time-consuming business of identifying the right family, qualifying them, and making that connection seamless, that's already done for you inside Doris. So me and the team are super passionate about this. Who knows how long this mission takes? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, longer, I don't know. But we are determined that Doris will become the trusted intermediary in the international school sector, and that if you're a parent anywhere, it's the go-to place to get independent, trusted, impartial recommendations. And if you're a school, it's the go-to place to come to showcase what makes you unique and connect with parents that are a great fit for what you're offering. And that's everything that we're trying to do. Anyway, I'm going to sign off from Phnom Penh, Cambodia. If you've watched all of this video, then thank you. If you've even just watched some of this video, then I appreciate that too. And I'll be back soon with another Doris Diaries. See you later.